welcome you to Porch Talk. This is your host, Alan, and the song you just heard was called Pinpoint by Hayfitz. And we're burning the phone lines down to Brooklyn, New York to catch up with Brendan. So, Brendan, how you doing? And man, it's good to have you here.
Of course. Happy to be here in whatever capacity it's allotted to us.
Yeah, no kidding, man. This whole world's kind of crazy right now, right?
Sure is, my friend.
Well, man, just to get a little more familiar with you and to start talking a little bit about your music, tell me a little bit about first growing up and where you're from and just those early influences.
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Los Angeles. Was not born there, but I was there from a very early age. So that's my home. Kind of in a small beach town near LAX, the main international airport over there. And came from a very non-musical family. My parents separated early, so music was kind of my own discovery, so to speak. And
Yeah.
a lot of my friends had kind of taken a liking to it, I think, pretty early on. And I was a little bit late to the party. My parents had bought me a lot of instruments and whatnot growing up, but I didn't take as much interest as makes sense to me now, kind of looking back on it. It took me a while to kind of revisit everything, but once my friends started getting into it around middle school and like starting bands, then I kind of dove head first. But I was very much dedicated to basketball, actually,
Yeah.
as a young kid. So I think it wasn't really until the end of freshman year or so of high school that I really kind of took the big pivot away from that and towards music, and haven't really looked back since.
Yeah, man. Well, let me ask you this: who is your favorite baller?
Oh man, you gotta go back to Kobe, of course. If this year couldn't get any more tragic, man, it's just really wild. So
Yeah.
I was even at his 81-point game just by happenstance.
No way.
I probably went to less than 5 games this season. But yeah, I was there. It was just a spectacular thing to see. So
I remember.
yeah,
I think that
definitely.
was the first year that I got into the NBA. I was my roommate at the time. He was a huge NBA fan and
Okay.
a huge Kobe fan. And I think I remember watching that game live. And like toward the end of it, Kobe was just so tired. It looked like he was just throwing the ball and it was just going in.
Yeah. I hope we all get a night like that in one way or another in our lives.
Yeah. And so
But
kind of back to your music. So
sure.
freshman in high school, and so what was that primary instrument that you were learning on? You had multiple instruments, right?
I was playing guitar. I had a drum set hanging around. Especially into high school, I always had a kit, but I was never really playing with anyone on the drums. And my first band, I played bass. So yeah, definitely the stringed instruments. I've been actually spending time during the quarantine trying to get my hands familiar with playing piano a little bit more, because I've always wanted to do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit late to that game as well.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I think I was 28 years old before I started trying to figure out the keys.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm 26, so not too far behind you.
yeah, and it helps so much. Like I know, I was just listening to a recent interview. I think it was with REM, and they made the point that in their songwriting process, they wanted to be sure not to only write on their primary instrument. It just kind of helped open things up for them.
Totally. Yeah, you don't really have. I write a lot in one open tuning that I used for most of my first record, and my guitar rarely comes out of that. And a lot of the voicings, when I tried to translate them over to piano, I'm finding that you can't play it. Now you can't do a voicing like that with your right hand. So, the entire approach changes. Or, I've had times where I've had a string break and I just didn't change it, and that kind of led to a song. And so sometimes restrictions, or just kind of like, that's kind of playing in an open tuning in general. You don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You don't have that familiarity with, obviously eventually you figure it out, but at first, you just kind of put in your fingers places,
mm-hmm.
and it sounds nice. So I think that kind of innocence, as far as songwriting goes, with just the chord structure and whatnot, that's like a really positive thing that's helped me kind of find my own kind of voice on the instrument.
Yeah.
So
what led you to an open tuning? I know, just to go back to late '90s, early 2000s, it was always like
mm-hmm.
the Goo Goo Dolls, who were, every song they ever wrote, it seemed like it was in a strange tuning.
Yeah, I've been doing it. I was playing in like an indie rock band for a long time, and it was the same thing with that. I don't know. I just, I'm using a capo often, and it's just like I said, it's that kind of mystery to what you're doing, and you just really just use your ears when you're in a tuning like that.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's not. It's like the least bit of calculation from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know. It's been really good to me. So I'm experimenting with this next record. Just I've tuned one of the strings down a half step, so now it has a much more somber kind of like I don't know. It's not sad. It's just like a little bit colder sounding.
Now that would be like Kitchen, right?
Oh, that's actually that's in that song, and I think 11 out of the 12 songs on this first album are in the same tuning, and there's one song that is in standard tuning, strangely enough. So
yeah, and so, man, like my first discovery of you is when you were scheduled to come to the Sunstroke House, and I was getting familiar with your music, and one of the first remarks that I was making about it when I was sharing it with a friend is listen to all the space that he creates with his music.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, man, it's my porch music lately. I like sitting out on the porch on the evenings and just putting you on, man. It's relaxing, to say the least, and I mean, it's just great wide open from my view, and the music just is perfect for it.
I mean, that's like the best kind of thing that you could say, honestly. That's what I'm hoping for. I think I actually had an experience just this week where it was honestly a pretty profound moment for me, but I was just walking. I was on a little nature hike, and managed to get out of my main space for a second while being responsible, of course. But I just had a playlist that I have on Spotify, just really low volume, and something was on, and I just turned it up because it was just making me feel really nice. It was actually like one of my own songs, which was, I had no idea until I turned it up, and that was just like a pretty beautiful moment to be able to separate myself from having made it and just trying to experience like what it made me feel like. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's kind of what it's going to be able to provide people, is a sense of calmness and tranquility and all of that. Just like maybe inspire some pensive moments. So being on a porch is pretty optimal for that, I'd say.
Yeah, man, it definitely is. And so just growing up in Los Angeles, coming up out of high school, how far would the time span be before you decided to make the move out to Brooklyn?
I went to college at Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what brought me to the East Coast. back to the East Coast technically. I was born in New Jersey, but yeah, it brought me back there for 4 years, and I had that same band that I was playing with all through school. We moved as a band to Rhode Island for a year to write a record, and then we ended up here, and the band soon after kind of fizzled out, and I started making the very, very beginnings of what this project ended up becoming. So, yeah, it was quite a journey there, but the community that I have from that college experience, a lot of us ended up here. My roommate, who I've been with for 2.5 years, he was in school with me, and most of our close friends were all from Boston, so it's been nice.
Yeah, got you. What was some of the biggest takeaways from studying there, you think?
For me, it was mostly the community. It really exposed me to a lot of, a lot of styles of music that I would have never really taken liking to on my own, and I made friends with a lot of these kids in the math rock community, strangely enough. So I was, and there's tons of house shows every weekend, going to house shows and, seeing these crazy rock bands and punk bands and everything playing in the basement, and people just kind of losing their minds. It was really cool. It's like we were definitely really kind of a part of something, and the band I was playing in would play some of these shows sometimes, and it kind of just rooted me in that way, and that's why I started the band that I did in college, just to kind of be able to participate, and so that was super cool. It definitely, and the friendships too. It's one of those schools that there's so much going on. There's so much talent there, and if you want to apply yourself, you could get a lot out of it. If you want to just kind of coast your way through it, you can as well. So, it just depends on the path that you choose. And, for better or worse, we all ended up here, a lot of us. So.
Right. And, man, just a little bit about the first album and the recording process for it, and I guess kind of walk me up to the moment when we were supposed to sit down at the Sunstroke House and the whole South by Southwest.
Sure.
That would get canceled, but just to walk us up to there, to kind of bring me up to speed. And so, what was getting traction like with that first album?
Well, so I put one song out in September. That was just really just to test the waters. We hadn't even picked an album release date yet. I had finished the record probably in June, for the most part of last year, and we did the normal things that you may do, try to get a record label to put it out, etc., etc. And just decided that let's just put something out and see what happens. And honestly, not too much really happened with it last year between September and the end of the year, but come January, I got a lot more traction from playlists, and I got connected to Side Door, and they've been just really beautifully championing this project, and I'm actually working with them outside of my artist capacity now as well, and I think there's just so much opportunity there for independent artists to kind of find their way.
Yeah.
And so that was there. I recorded the album last January. That was the beginning of the process. I started in Seattle. My mom's old boss and best friend for many, many years. She has this beautiful, beautiful home on the Puget Sound in Seattle. And it was just like really idyllic, and those 3 weeks I was just pretty much doing the guitar and the vocals, and it took a long time. It took a lot more time than I had thought, and there was no one there monitoring it, so it was all very, very DIY. I had flown out with a suitcase worth of equipment, and I kind of just did my thing, and really tried to make it cohesive, and that was like the foundation of the whole album. And after that, I flew back out here and ended up at a friend's house in Pennsylvania. He has this kind of cabin. He was living by himself. It was a family cabin. And, he's super into synthesis, and he plays a bunch of woodwind instruments. And it was just kind of like I got to spend a week with a mad scientist, and we were just trying all. Yeah, we hadn't really even planned to collaborate all that much. I'd gone up there to record like electric guitars and just kind of do the finishing touches of stuff. But once I was just like, hey, maybe you can help me try this thing, and that just, his name's Patrick. I really have to thank him a lot for providing a lot of that space that you hear.
Yeah.
Really came to life. I had things laid out. I had things with my MIDI keyboard and stuff that I had like basic patches, but the actual analog instruments that we got to use, and it was just a really beautiful experience. And again, it wasn't super calculated. It was just trying stuff.
Yeah.
And trying stuff. And, and then I finished everything here. The recording, I had done some stuff in my apartment, some stuff in my friend Alex's apartment, who also played on the record. I think we got up to 10 people that had their hand on this thing, performance-wise, which was, it was really cool because they all, they knew it was my baby, so
yeah.
No one was really telling me what to do. They were just like, whatever you're thinking, let's just try it. And that felt really cool because it was kind of like I was producing, just a producer sometimes, and then sometimes I was the artist. And kind of getting to wear different hats was, it was really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a long process. It was, a full 6-month process, and I mixed it as well. I went back up to Pennsylvania and mixed it there for a week and put the final touches here. And yeah, so you never know. Like, that's the thing. If you're doing by yourself, you're doing independently, it could just kind of trickle on and on and on and on. So I'm glad it was 6 months and not 6 years, because I know that happens to people.
Definitely.
All the time, so.
And man, just to back up just for a second, just to give people a better idea of like side door to South by Southwest and Southwest is, it's a question people, will ask a friend or whoever is like, how are you finding these new artists? And that's usually a main way that I tell them is like, just look and see who South by Southwest is going to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've wanted to be a part of the festival, ever since I started the last project of mine. And, now it's really cool because friends of ours here in New York, like, this was the first year a lot of them were going down, and, we're all kind of starting to hit our stride in one way or another. At least, like, these are the projects we feel really good about. And that was like the biggest bummer, I think. Like, a lot of friends really just, they're just not going to have that opportunity this year, and it's not getting rescheduled. So I hope that we're all on a positive trajectory here, not a negative trajectory, and next year we'll be able to find our way back, and it's going to make sense for everyone. But
yeah, sounds like it was going to be a party.
Yeah. I mean, you mean like one of my very, very best friends. He's a writer, actually, and used to be in a band. And now he kind of, I could give him a shout out. His name's Julian Tepper. He just, his band, when he was my age, he's like 40 now. They ended up writing a song that got picked up by a Texas band, Spoon.
How about that?
So he was going down there to support this book that was kind of about all that. And, so yeah, it was crazy. All sorts of friends were going to be there. It's I try not to think about it too much because it starts to really bum me out. But that was really the tip of the iceberg there. It was South by. Once South by went down, it was like everyone's tours started going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was I think they were like the first one, and then like immediately after that, it seemed like every day there was more news of things being canceled.
Yeah, yeah,
And so,
very much so. So,
and
chain reaction.
yeah, and I mean, just to like, I don't want to linger here for too long, but I just want
Sure.
to pick your brain about this a little bit. Is just what all this has really meant for musicians and just artists in general, for all these events not being able to happen. And I like the creativity that we're having on social media as far as, still getting the music out, still sharing it, but it's not as good as being there and in person, but whatever you can do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everyone is missing out on this. Um, that's just kind of it's very much universal. I really do. I have a good amount of friends working in the music industry, and touring and management and whatnot, and venues. I really do hope that we could recover from this. That these small venues that are great are going to be able to recover, and it's going to be really competitive going forward because of all this time that was lost. And I putting out an album during this, it's really strange, and I know plenty of people that are doing it, and it's just there's not a lot that we could really do as far as that goes, especially because we don't know when this is going to end, and that's the we don't know when you're going to be able to go to a show with 500 people.
Right.
That seems very far off. I'm fortunate in that a lot of the shows that I play and I enjoy playing are 50 people or less. That kind of intimate setting, and what Side Door does so beautifully, and I really, that's something I could make a living from playing shows like that, and I'm happy to, and I think that's what the future of live music is going to look like for a while. Are these smaller gatherings, more intimate. You're gonna see the need for people to start stepping up and saying, I want my favorite band to come tour here, but at the end of the day, they're not Beyonce, and they don't have priority over this market, and I'm just gonna call them up and say, listen, I've got a space. Why don't you do the show here? Please come here. And that's Sunstroke House is no exception. It's like these are the kinds of environments that I think are going to become more prevalent, and we're going to start relying on them a little bit more. And I think people outside the artistic community are wondering, like, how can I help? And like that's a huge way. Looking forward. If you've got a space, call up send them an email, send them an Instagram message, be like, I live in Salt Lake City. Like, please come here, and I'll get 20 people, 30 people, 40, 100 people to come see you play, and I'll give you a space, and, whatever it is. But I see that as something that's going to need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
we'll see. Like I said, everyone's got a whole different set of circumstances that are going to result from this whole crisis. But
yeah, I agree with that, man. It was it's been probably right at 3 years now. Is when I was first introduced to house shows, that was completely foreign to me. If I wanted to see a show, it was going out to a festival, or maybe catching the band at a great venue a couple towns over. But
right
now, there's these house shows and just popping up all over, and it's like, my favorite people to go see are now coming to places that ain't so far from me, and it's really changing the game. And,
it's really powerful. I think, if I tell people, and I'm not even doing it successfully yet, but I think, within a few years I could find a way to do it. But it's just like, if you could get 50 people to a show in 50 cities, that's a career. You could 100% live on that. And on top of that, everyone at that show is going to feel really connected to you, because they're going to be able to see you. They're going to be super close to you. You could talk to every single person if you want to. It's just like a really cool culture that can be cultivated in those environments that you're not going to get, these big venues with the super elevated stages and all the smoke and all the lights and everything. If you're a big rock band, if you're making arena rock, or, it's not going to really be suitable for you. But I'm fortunate that this kind of huge surge in this kind of thing is happening at a time where I definitely need it most, and a lot of my friends that play folk music or things similar can really make great use out of. So
Absolutely.
I hope that the gatherings of 50 or less can happen soon. That's what I will say.
Yeah, just
You'll see me right back out there as soon as that's a possibility.
yeah. And man, just to take the time now with the second album, and just ways to support you. Let's talk a little bit about reaching you on social media and like ways to find your music.
Sure. So I just put out a song on Friday called Kitchen. So that's the third single. I believe we have 3 more songs coming out. I have 3 more songs coming out between now and the middle of May, and then the full first album is going to be out on the 29th of May.
Okay.
So you could find me on Spotify. You could find me on Instagram. I just started a Patreon page. That's like the best way if you actually do come across the music and you feel connected to it. There's 3 tiers on there, and I'm going to be demoing songs for this next record and posting a bunch of stuff that didn't make the first record and some of my photography, and that's kind of the best way, other than streaming the songs and kind of like getting in touch and telling me where you live and if I could come play in your house.
Yeah.
These are all kind of things that I'm just kind of like planning around, but I can't even really ship my merchandise out right now. I have a ton of merchandise, but to go to the post office and be there for an hour, I don't think is very responsible. So,
Right.
And all my merch is actually made by hand. So, but I am gonna have I just got a test pressing for the vinyl for the first record, and be able to post that pretty soon.
Oh man.
For pre-orders and whatnot. So, I'm really excited about that. I feel like this is music that really translates nicely to that kind of.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's nice. I had to listen to it, so my roommates were sleeping, so I just put on my headphones and listened directly out of the turntable.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun. It was a nice little afternoon. So, but I don't want to listen to it many more times. I'll tell you that. After a year.
Yeah.
So
I feel you, man. Well, let's break off right here, and typical day when you're not writing and we're not in a pandemic. What are some of the hobbies? And you mentioned that all your merchandise is handmade. So just a little bit, just a little bit about your day to day.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the merch is made by a really good friend of mine, Genevieve Sachs. She block prints everything. She designed everything and she block prints it. We just tried that out for this first tour, and people really, really took liking to the stuff. So I'm excited to do more of that. For me, my day to day, this is my first year just doing music full time. So I try to spend a lot of time learning. I kind of been dedicating a good amount of time to trying to learn Spanish. I've been trying to do that for a while, and kind of just get better at a lot of the things that are helping out the music, whether it's learning to play piano or learning a new software. Or I also take part in a pretty cool thing here with a group of friends. We call it like a song challenge, and we not during pandemic times, we will spend the entire day in our own homes writing and recording, and you start from scratch if you can. and at 9 p.m. that night we all get together and we listen to what everyone made that day. And it's really cool. It just really pushes you to get out as much as you possibly can in that 9 or 10 hour period and drink beers, and it's just a really nice thing. So we're actually going to do a virtual song challenge this week, so I'm super excited. I think I write the bulk of my songs for those days. It takes a lot out of you. I drink a ton of coffee, and I just really just touch every instrument I can in my room, and hopefully something cool kind of comes out of it.
Yeah.
But and I just I'd like to be outside and exercise and go for bike rides and be in nature as much as I can. And, if I had anything to do with it, I would not be inside looking at a screen. Unfortunately, that is the reality that we're in right now, and still how we spend most of our days, I think, outside of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else to ask you. Is there anything else that you would like to plug before we go?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground.
I think so, too.
Haven't done too many of these yet, so it's been nice.
Well, cool, man. Well, Brennan, thank you so much for taking the time, buddy.
Of course. Yeah, thanks, Alan.
And y'all stay
Forward
safe.
to seeing you in person once we. I already talked to Jamie, and I do want to thank her too. They're really wonderful people down there. So.
Yeah, they are, man.
Yeah. So soon enough.
Yeah,
soon
man.
Enough. Make my way down, and we'll do this again.
All right, brother.
All right.
See ya.
Yeah. Stay healthy and stay safe.
I'll do my best, man. You too.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. News and notes. Thank you so much for listening to Porch Talk. If you haven't done so already, I would ask that you would rate and review the show on whatever podcast app it is that you're listening to on. We are on the YouTube. You can also find us on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But I would really like to push further the idea that Hayfitz gave us with Patreon. Something that you can do for your favorite artist, as little as what you would give for coffee a day. It's whatever dollar amount that you would set for that month. And that would be something that you would faithfully give each month. And it's divided by tiers, and you can get more involved with the artist. So I encourage that. We're going to walk the thing on out the door right now with a song called Kitchen. All right, thank y'all so much for listening. Peace out.
How'd we get along? Didn't expect to be so vulnerable at home. Didn't think I'd get this time with you, no. I really wasn't prepared for this. I'm dressed like a homeless man. You can see how truly pale that I am. Hoped you wouldn't have to see me like this, but it's what I've got to work with. So here we go.